Welcome in the latest episode of What I Bet. I'm your host, Real underscore G Warner. You can find these podcasts on Twitter. Pregame Now is the best handle to find as soon as things are launched, released, all those sort of things. At the Real underscore G Warner is me. You can find when I retweet those once they come out on Pregame Now. As well, you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or really wherever you get your podcast, straight out of Vegas AM. And this is the episode number 34. We're going through a bunch of cards on this May 8th, Friday, May 8th. We got some soccer stuff to discuss across the top five European soccer leagues. We have four playing on Friday, single games in all of them. We also have the NHL playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs, Major League Baseball, a big Friday card. And of course, we'll get you some promotions, save you some money at pregame.com. And of course, the What I Bet best bet coming end of show. We were 7 4-1 last 12, 2-0 last two. Last pick was Milwaukee Brewers on April 30th. We're going to try to get a few more episodes, but life has been busy and there have been so many sports on that I wanted to be as informed as possible and get you away to the window. It's been a really good run for baseball lately, especially at pregame.com. I think it was 13-1 entering Thursday's action in the last 14 plays. Going to try to keep that streak alive. Don't expect 13-1 streaks that often, but of course, streaks go on forever and only die once. So let's see how much we can do in that category. We'll start in the German Bundesliga. That is the earliest, I think, of all reasonable soccer betting action. Of course, you can probably find stuff in Asia, in other parts of the land, probably even some in Germany starting earlier on Friday. But we'll start in that Friday afternoon matchup, and that is Borussia Dortmund, a home favorite of 1 goal to Eintracht Frankfurt. Total is 3.5. Juice more to the over and more to the home favorite. So Borussia Dortmund have been kind of teeter-tottering without a lot to play for. They are not in the title race, have not been for a while, thanks to Bayern München's incredible play this season. They're not really at risk of missing Champions League. They're out of the DFB Pokal, not in the final. That's coming up at the end of the season. So what are they really playing for? Maybe to be sharp for the World Cup coming up, but that's a long way away, and it's hard to really say that that really matters for this specific matchup with Eintracht Frankfurt coming in. Eintracht, who were Champions League qualifiers, had a really horrible start to the season, sacked a manager, couldn't defend, have gotten better than that, or better about that ever since appointing a new manager. But how much does that matter? Doesn't matter going on the road to the hardest place to play in the German Bundesliga. You could say, of course, it's Munich, but ultimately, I think based on talent levels and how they excel, I think Bayern's good everywhere. Dortmund are so good at home, and that's the scariest place to play. Now, with that said, 1 goal, an insurance goal is a lot for Borussia Dortmund, who've been kind of up and down lately, not really looking incredibly inspired. Whereas Eintracht Frankfurt are trying to fight their way into Europe or to get to a better place in Europe for next season. Their manager was brought in probably to not just to keep them in the league, but qualify for Champions League or at least get them into Europe, and that's certainly what they're fighting for. So I like the motivation edge. Potentially, it's really tough to go into, I guess the Westfalen Stadion is what it used to be called. Now the Signal Iduna Park, which I have been to one time. It's a crazy environment it was for the biggest rival locally in Schalke 04, who have fallen down to the German Zweite the second division. But Eintracht Frankfurt, they travel really well, have a big crowd, and the big question is how much does that matter in a stadium of 80,000 where there's so many black and yellow, Schwarz-Gelben as it's called in Germany. Let's see how that goes. But ultimately, I lean to Eintracht Frankfurt +1. Would probably lean to under 3.5, but I don't feel great about that. And that's probably further away from making my card on Friday afternoon here in the United States. Kickoff time is 2:30 Eastern Time, 1:30 Central in Dallas, Texas, God's country, where I live currently. And I'll lean to Eintracht Frankfurt in that matchup. We'll move next to the Italian Serie A, which has one matchup starting at 1:45 Central Time, 2:45 Eastern. That is Torino, a quarter goal favorite at home to Sassuolo. Totals 2.5 and it's juiced more pretty heavily to over. So Torino have had goal scoring problems for as long as I've been following soccer, it seems. They are generally not at risk of being relegated, though they don't have a huge budget. Not really sure I've been that impressed with them this season, though they have had a decent run in, I think, in the second half of the season. Sassuolo on the other side, newly promoted from Serie B. Late night with the real Scorchy Warrior. You're gonna get some yawns. Here we are. It's 12:12 local. Might be the earliest I've gone to bed in what feels like a month, but we'll see what that happens, how long this episode goes. But anyway, Sassuolo, they look about as safe as you can be. Congratulations to them after one season down in Serie B. They've been putting great players throughout Europe and are certainly very, very talented. I like them as a quarter goal underdog. It's extremely juiced right now. Probably a lot of pick'ems are out there. Total at 2.5. I'll lean to under forever with the Torino matchup, but Sassuolo have been scoring goals, and that does put a lot of concern in me that we might see a shootout here, especially with both teams probably sitting mid-table without a lot to worry about. Move next to the same kickoff time, 13:45 in the military time and Central Time Zone, 2:45 Eastern Time. And that's bringing us to French Ligue 1, and we'll go over to Racing Club de Lens, RCL. They're hosting FCN Football Club de Nantes. Currently, Lens are a 1.25 goal favorite, more juice on Nantes away. Total is 3, juice very heavily to over. And I'll lean to under there. Nantes are looking like they're going down. They've been fighting relegation for many years, have tried to bring in new managers and then eventually go back to Antoine Cabaret, who has found his way and honestly made it over to Football Club de Paris, not the Paris Saint-Germain that's in Champions League, but the newly promoted with wealthy owners. And probably good for him because Nantes never really wanted to keep him. But Nantes are in big trouble. They've not been good this season. Not really been. I feel like their talent level has not been as weak, but ultimately they have not been good, and they are facing one of the best teams on the road in probably the hardest place to play versus skill in all of Europe. I just said nice things about Borussia Dortmund, but honestly, Racing Club de Lens, Le Sang et Or, the blood and gold, look like a McDonald's uniforms out there at times, but they play really well at home. It's a scary place to go. It's very juiced to over right now at over 3. I don't think Nantes have a lot of goals in them. They're going to fight like heck because they're trying to stay in the league. Might have already been relegated, but I haven't done the math yet on all that. But lean to under 3 in that matchup. Last but not least, we'll get to Spanish La Liga, and then we'll move over to the hockey portion of the show, and we'll go to Levante hosting Osasuna. Levante, newly promoted from the Segunda División, bottom of the table, have not, or yeah, I think bottom of the table for almost the entire season. Have been pretty weak. They're a yo-yo club. I actually saw them live in Spain a few seasons ago, but they've been mired in Segunda Division, the second division, for a while. Currently, Levante, though, at Pick'em at home to Osasuna, who were fighting for Europe not too long ago. Total in this one's 2.5, juice very heavily to under. A lot of juice on Levante. I think we see this climb to a quarter goal favorite. I don't love being against newly promoted sides that are favorites in kind of a weird, unexpected fashion. I like Osasuna. They're always much better at home at El Sadar and Pamplona, where the Bulls get run. But and there is some concern for me that this seems obvious, but a team is much higher on the table, could be a quarter goal underdog, go on the road, get a result. Good for them in trying to climb up the table or at least hold on to their position. Not enough for Levante, who are going to do everything they can to win this game, which does mean that they're probably going to take some chances they shouldn't. So Osasuna, when they get to a quarter goal underdog or where it might be across the marketplace right now, I'm interested there, and we'll see where this one ends up closing. Now we'll move to the German, no, where did the German Bundesliga? We'll move to the American and I guess the North American, the hockey side of things. So we'll just do the two Friday matchups, and that is Montreal Canadiens and they are visiting Buffalo, the Sabres. Right now, the Sabres minus 130 at home. Total is 6, pretty heavily to under right now. It's very important if you were with me on Thursday night to get the push on 6. It ended 4-2. Early goals, a lot of scoring. Didn't expect that. Certainly didn't see that in Montreal, surviving Game 7 in Tampa Bay on only 9 shots, scoring 2 goals somehow from 2 of them. Sabres looked really good in their first home game in this round. Literally got outplayed in every single home game. Won two, somehow lost 2 of 3 to the Boston Bruins, who were one of the worst teams to make the playoffs, and then won all their road games. So I don't know what to say about that. You could argue that Buffalo is cursed. Certainly, the Bills fans think that, and there's a huge amount of Bills hats and Sabres jerseys that were at that game the other day. But I think Montreal, we know what they are. They're a younger team. They're fighting like heck just to be in this round and credit them for getting there. Though you could argue Tampa doesn't win the first round series ever. But Martin St. Louis has been great and seems to be understanding that 9 shots is not how you win hockey match or hockey games. But I just don't think they have enough offense, and that's the big question. But I do think they have the mettle, the fight, the desire, and just the plan to play defensively. And I don't know that I trust Buffalo at all at home after that Boston series. So Buffalo minus 130 favorite feels pretty cheap for the top seed in the division winners. Though Montreal are certainly. I mean, they don't really score goals, so it's hard to really see. I just think we see a low-scoring game here, so under six looks very interesting to me in that matchup. Next, we'll go to the Vegas Golden Knights visiting the Anaheim Ducks. I'd played both of these first matchups in Vegas. Played Anaheim, both of them. Thought Anaheim played. Were trailing for most of game one, but literally passed off a wide open net, which is incredible, and ended up still tying the game, equalizing 1-1, and then conceding on a what should have been an icing that was going to be blown dead, but then the same guy who missed the open net decided that he was not going to play out and not going to play to the whistle. And unfortunately, a very easy goal. And the Knights ended up adding an empty netter, and that was the 3-1 final. The Ducks 3-1, and their own side of things was much more dominant. That's certainly the scoreline that Vegas is playing for. They want to play low scoring games. So that's where they are best. They're not going to outscore everybody. They're going to let you kind of do what you want with the puck, take as many shots as you can, and try to get you on counterattacks. It's all honestly like a soccer strategy. It's crazy. But I don't like that as a big favorite. Here for this, I guess I get to the number. Vegas, a slight favorite away from home, minus 108 to minus 106 for Anaheim right now. 14-cent juice. Gotta love that. Total is six in this one. Just a little bit more to over. And this is another one where I expect to see a low scoring game. Now, the empty netters have been killers for a lot of totals, especially 5.5s, but the six certainly offers a very nice and important push. Somehow avoided one in the Montreal game on Thursday night. But for me, I think there's plenty of value on Anaheim. I would love to see some more Vegas money come in. I don't know as a slight favorite that I'm scared of Anaheim. I feel like they're going to control the game, and that's not what you want as a road favorite or really a road underdog, just conceding possession, conceding shots, and letting them dictate how the game should be played. It's not a winning strategy to me. And I don't like it. It's basically Real Madrid in Champions League after many, many years of seeing them succeed with it. It hasn't been working lately, and there's good reason for that. So, probably biggest interest for me is the Ducks, but lean to under six as well, because I think Vegas is going to do everything they can to defend their net, and we'll see how many times they could score themselves. We'll now move to a big baseball card that will get you a promotion to save you some money at pregame.com, and then get you what I bet best bet. No early games at Wrigley, as the Cubs are actually here in Arlington. This weekend to take on the Texas Rangers, who are scuffling. Rangers chat. If you listen to many years of the Major League Baseball podcast with Munaf and I on this channel, on its platform, I guess, or with this network, certainly heard a lot about Rangers chat, and they are down in the dumps at this point. Ranger Blake is really hurt about the Rangers so far, but realize it's a terrible division, and so maybe there's some hope from here. Anyway, we'll start with the Houston Astros, who are in that AL West. They are visiting the Cincinnati Reds. We got Mike Burrows at Nick Lodolo. A lot of questions about both starters here. Burrows has been horrible, has changed his picks mix basically between each start, trying to figure out just any sort of semblance of what works. While on the other side is Nick Lodolo making his season debut after missing an entire month due to a blister, which is especially fun because I have a bunch of fantasy teams. But he's one of the most oft injured players I've ever followed. Has great stuff, but we'll see what he can harness or what he has in this first start because it's a big step up from any minor leagues to Major League Baseball, especially the Astros have hit. Carlos Correa out for the season. That's some news. The Astros have been really crippled by injuries so far. But the Reds are minus 128 favorite at home. Totals 9.5. Choose very heavily to under. It's a great park for runs to be scored. Still hasn't, to me, been that hot in the United States. So we haven't seen the Cincinnati days where pop-ups are flying over the fence. But Houston can certainly hit. We'll see what that lineup looks like. And honestly, Nick Lodolo, what I like best about him, he's a good ground ball pitcher, left-hander, and he gets a lot of strikeouts. And that, to me, is the ideal scenario for a Major League Baseball pitcher these days. But his blister problems have literally drove me up a wall. And so we'll see how long he stays in there. But I'll lean to the Reds. Their bullpen's been great. I don't expect that to be that way all season, and we'll see how much they work. But just don't trust Houston. Don't trust Burrows. They're really banged up, and I don't know how Houston's going to close this game out. Next, go to the Colorado Rockies. Chase Dollander at the Philadelphia Phillies. And Jesus Luzardo. Luzardo minus 210 favorite. $2 favorites. My favorite. 7.5 is the total. Juice very heavily to under. Dollander's been awesome. There's a believer in Dollander. As I say his name different ways both times, just to make sure I'm right once. He's great. He's had some openers before. We'll see if that happens against the Phillies, who have some very strong left-handed batters at the top of their lineup. But with that said, listed pitchers, if that's something you're into, I think I'm waiting to see this Rockies number surge as high as possible. So I recommend you waiting if you're doing that. Run line is pretty large right now. Plus 1.5 is only minus 125 for the juice on the Rockies. But Jesus Luzardo is a great pitcher. It's just he's about as inconsistent as the weather, and that's the hardest thing for me to understand or project. Moving next to the Athletics, visiting the Baltimore Orioles, we got Jacob Lopez at Kyle Bradish. Bradish minus 132, totals 9.5. She's very heavily to under. Bradish has been horrible to start this season, was literally a Cy Young candidate the last month of the season, of course, coming off of his Tommy John recovery or internal brace, one of those elbow surgeries. Anyway, Jacob Lopez, great at missing bats last year. Hasn't missed any so far this season. Probably lean to over here. Would love to see that fall to 9. That push is very crucial. Moving next to the Angels and Reed Detmers visiting the Toronto Blue Jays and Dylan Cease, two of the best strikeout pitchers in the game that have absolutely no ability to show any sort of consistency. So currently the Jays are minus 154, which is alarming based on what offense. Total of 7.5, just more to the under. The Angels simply can outslug anybody. They live for home runs. This really ugly offense otherwise. The ball's not flying over the fence. You could argue that Toronto is somewhat safe from weather because they are in a dome, though I don't know that domes are great for the balls flying out of things. But when Dylan Cease misses, the ball goes a long way. So I'm pretty interested in the Angels plus 139. We'll next go to the Washington Nationals and Foster Griffin visiting Robbie Snelling, making his debut for the Miami Marlins. If anyone's been following me for many, many years at the Real underscore G Warner across all social media platforms, you know that I don't like debuts or I like to be on the other side of debuts, especially as favorites. Well, the Miami Marlins with a pretty big long losing streak heading into Thursday's action. Now they start a rookie. They're closed on the IL. They aren't very good anyway. Just sent their star catcher down to put someone else in there. Whew, not a lot of things working well. And then on the other side, unfortunately, are the Washington Nationals. And the Nats are, they've been smoking the ball so far this season, which is surprising because usually the ball doesn't fly in Washington when it's cold. But they're going to be in Miami, going to be in a dome. It's a big park. A lean to the Nats here and probably over 8, even though that park does not really correlate to that. We'll go to the Rays and Jordy Schultens visiting the Boston Red Sox and Connolly early minus 133, totals 8.5, juice all the way to over. The Rays have been the hottest team in baseball, if not the hottest team in the world. I'm interested in the Rays, especially the plus 9 next to them. Trust bullpen games. They've invented them. They know what they're doing. Kevin Cash is a steady hand. The Red Sox are about as steady as a jackhammer. So certainly lean to Tampa Bay plus 121. Next, go to the Minnesota Twins and Prelip. I don't know his first name. He's visiting Parker Messick and the Cleveland Guardians. Guardians minus 140, total 7.5, juice more to the over. Twins have come back to earth. I think a cheap price on the Guardians. What I'm looking for, this is probably above what I want, though. Prelip's been good to start his Major League Baseball career. Next, we'll go to the Detroit Tigers and Kader Montero visiting Chris Bubich in Kansas City. The Royals minus 143, totals 8.5, and the juice is split both ways. No real telling on which way that's going to go. The Royals have been playing well. Who knew it just took a trip to Seattle to all of a sudden find your pitching and offense and all those sort of things. Seattle's certainly not playing great, but that was a big sweep for the Royals, and things have gone well for them since then. Hosted Cleveland next, and now get another division rival. I really like Kader Montero. I think he's underpriced, and I think he's got the stuff. He doesn't stick around the major leagues very long, as I think 3 straight starts since getting called up from AAA. It's a good sign, and probably will have that rotation spot with Tarek Skubal going under the knife. Sad for him and any fantasy players that have him, but for me, it's the Detroit Tigers plus 130. Bubich is good at times, but can blow up. And the Royals, certainly in their platoon splits, they're going to bat a lot of righties, which is certainly their weaker lineup. But I don't trust Bubich nor that bullpen minus 143. Next, we go to Seattle. Just speaking of, Emerson Hancock visiting the Chicago White Sox and Sean Burke. Hancock minus 138 favorite on the road, total 7.5, juice all the way to over. White Sox have been playing well, but when does the when do the White Sox turn into the pumpkin? I guess is the easiest way to say it. Cinderella reference. It's been a while since I've seen the movie. Lean to the home underdog though. Emerson Hancock has been so good and has certainly shut me up for my disbelief in previous seasons. Big prospect, finally delivering. New York Yankees then visit the Milwaukee Brewers. Max Fried at Jacob Misiorowski. Currently Fried minus 133 on the road. Total 7, juiced all the way to over. The Yankees have been playing really well, but this is a big tough tough for them. They're certainly in a park where the ball can fly. I think there's, believe it or not, some revenge on the mind of the Brewers after the torpedo bats dilemma last season when the Yankees scored a million or hit a million home runs, embarrassed the Brewers, and the Brewers end up winning the division and going for maybe just as far in the playoffs as the Yankees did. Well, Misiorowski, a great underdog at plus 121, is some of the best stuff in baseball. The problem is it deteriorates really quickly. They didn't they pushed him way further than they should have earlier this year in a trip to Boston, which I was on Misiorowski there. I don't love him, and I think he can get really, really wild. And they left him out there way too long, especially because the Brewers' model is to sell their big assets for big prices, and a UCL reconstruction would not be good for Misiorowski. But Max Fried on the other side, he's awesome. Maybe that's the reason why the total is 7. I just don't know that I like it as much as the Brewers plus 121. Next to the Cubs, they're starting Ben Brown, who's coming out of the bullpen, was closing when Daniel Palencia was on the IL, was setting up when he wasn't before he got hurt. Now he's starting on the road to Texas, and Kumar Rocker, who I don't trust to hold runners. I don't trust to do much of anything. He certainly has big pedigree, but he's got a long way to go to prove anything like that. But the Cubs are minus 132 favorites away from home. Total is 8.5, and the juice is split both ways. I lean under in this park. Every game there's one. No surprise here, under 8.5. The New York Mets and Nolan McLean visits the Arizona Diamondbacks and Ryan Nelson. Nelson plus 122 underdog at home, minus 135 on New York. Total is 8.5, juice split both ways. The Mets are, I guess, turning it around. Market does not stop believing in them. Don't stop believing. Holding that feeling. I'll lean to Arizona plus 122. 2 games left to go. We'll get you a promotion and then save you some money at pregame.com. St. Louis and Michael McGreevy plus 131. They are visiting Griffin Canning. Great name. But he pitches for the Padres, had a really up and down slash not great career. It's coming off of an Achilles reconstruction, which is scary, especially for any athlete, but especially a pitcher. Total in this one 7.5, juice all the way to over. St. Louis has been better to start this season. I believe in them. I don't believe in Griffin Canning, so give me St. Louis plus 131. I think we might see some goals here, though. Last but not least, Atlanta Braves. Chris Sale visits Emmett Sheehan. Currently, Sale plus 107. Rare to see him underdogged. Sheehan minus 118 on the Dodgers. We've seen a little bit of money coming in on Atlanta so far. Total is 8 in this one, just a little bit more to under. And it really is, can you back an Acuna list Atlanta Braves just because they have a great arm on the mound? Raisel Iglesias are closers back off the IL. The Dodgers are always good, always built for that park, better than everyone. And that's the big question. However, I do like Atlanta in that one, and don't really believe in Emmett Sheehan, and I don't think the Dodgers really do either. So that does it for this episode. Covered all the cards, baseball, NHL, and we did, of course, soccer across a lot of the top 5, 4 of the top 5 European soccer leagues, every league that had a match on Friday. For the what I bet best bet, we'll get to that in just one second. But before we get there, it is time to throw out a nice little promo code for everyone listening. Thank you for your support. Of course, I appreciate that a lot. Let's go there. If I could find the email, use that promo code May10, MAY 10. It's going to be May. If you're an NSYNC fan, M is in Mary, A is in Alpha, Y is in Yankee, 10. Good for $10 off anything, including rest of May all access. Get every pick and every sport from your favorite pro through May 31st for less money than the normal 7-day all access price. Rest of May all access available now for $99. Well, you pay $89 with your coupon. Go throw it in there, MAY10, and it's good to keep me on the airwaves. For my ultimate best bet, or the what I bet best bet coming end of show, we're 7-4-1 last 12, 2-0 last 2. Brewers with a 13-1 win as our last episode play. We'll hope to get a 12-run victory in this one. And let's go with Nick Lodolo coming off the IL. Cincinnati minus 128 at home to the Astros. A little concerned about him coming off the IL, I'll put it that way. But he's had a long time for his blister to heal, and the Cincinnati bullpen's been great. Don't trust Houston's. That does it for this episode of What I Bet. Hope to see you on the next episode coming up real soon. All right, going to count in for the video portion of the What I Bet best bet. 3, 2, 1. Hey, this is real underscore G Warner doing the What I Bet Best Bet video version, just the abridged, just so you don't have to listen to the whole rambling episode. I went through the NHL The big 4 out of 5 top 5 leagues had matches on Friday, May 8th. Also, the large Major League Baseball card. And going to throw out a best bet for all of you to grade what I bet on this May 8th episode. You can find us on pregame.com. You can find us on twitter.com/pregame now. You can find me on Twitter at the real underscore G Warner across all social media platforms as well: YouTube, Instagram, Patreon, all those sort of things. But for this episode, for what I bet, I went with Cincinnati minus 128. Long story short, Nick Lodolo, great pitcher, can miss bats, can get ground balls, important in Cincinnati where the ball flies. Mike Burrows, a trade candidate or a trade that they made to bring into Houston, has not had a smooth sailing adventure into Houston. Bullpen's banged up. They just lost Carlos Correa for the year. Give me the Reds minus 128, and we'll see you on the next episode.